Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic as Non-Classics. This is episode number 3478, Doubleshot number 3078. What episode is this one? It's 74. 3474, Doubleshot 3368. Yep. Got two Star Trek trades. First up is a miniseries. I think is a loose adaptation of an actual Star Trek novel. Yes, this is Star Trek Ruling in Hell. Yeah, there was an actual Star Trek novel called Khan Reign in Hell. This is a 4-issue miniseries done by Scott and David Tipton. Of course these two would do it because they write good stuff. With 5 of them, I'm not telling you on the artwork. So, we start off with the Enterprise towing the Botany Bay plus a few cargo containers are brought to Ceti Alpha 5. Yep. They're brought down the surface. Kind of people basically let go. Martia stays with them because she kind of betrayed the crew. But she was kind of for them. But she accepts that. She's a historian. The place is so beautiful. And then Kirk and Khan just handshake it out, which this week, after they leave, this was the last time Khan would see him until Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. He does thank Kirk, he thanks Scotty, obviously, and then sees Martia there with a beautiful sunset. After shaking his hand, they beam up, and they're not here. And throughout a lot of the book, Khan thinks Kirk would check on him. This is actually something from the movie, which of course basically Kirk never checked on him. The whole time he was there. And he was on his plane for 15 years. This is loosely adapted in that book. There's actually a character from the actual book who was basically like a female superwoman. There was a superwoman who appears in the book who didn't like Martia at first. And eventually became one of her closest friends. But this one was not necessarily in love with Khan. It just that she didn't trust him because she didn't have the genetics that she had. It was over that, not for love of Khan. No shit. Then about halfway the book, the character stops appearing. Then she appears in present day. Hey. Where Kirk and his crew do visit the actual planet after the events of Genesis. And the whole book is told in a flashback. So, after they leave, it's like, of course, we have John here, who actually is a character who did appear in the movies. And throughout this, Khan and the Suit are wearing these red suits with these belts. Like, don't criticize Kirk. He's kind of like, nope. So then, of course, after getting all the supplies taken out here, they kind of really set stuff up, and then Martia, off panel, takes off her Starfleet uniform, puts on this weird outfit. Yeah, that's Martia. Go away, please. Yeah, that's Martia. Yeah, for some weird reason, she took off her Starfleet uniform and just made this outfit for herself. It's looked like essentially art from palm tree branches or something, and she wears this the whole book. And we see a flashback of the classic episode Space Sea, where she's actually the first person that, like, let's put Kirk and an officer next to him. He does see Martia off distance. So then we see him like when they fall in love, and then, of course, then she betrays the crew. And here's a more close look at her outfit that she's wearing. Yeah, and she ditched her Starfleet uniform for this thing. Why? She probably feel like it. After the briefing of the court-martial and the fight they have, there's a lot of recap, and then, of course, they have a campfire. Martia proceeds to put on this outfit. Khan knows she's beautiful. And then she proceeds to burn her Starfleet uniform because she probably feels as though she's no longer in Starfleet, so the Khan makes out with her. I'm presuming off panel these two must have had sex. And of course, basically, the planet sort of allow all these creatures, and a lot of the time with Martia, like the artists love showing her rear end. They love showing it. It's like, if you're a female reader, you might not like this very much, seeing a woman's rear end. And it pops up several times where you see her from the back a lot. Yeah. Or there's actually one shot in the book where there's a close-up of her rear end. And to note the fact that the woman is beautiful. Well, how hot she is. From what I can tell about the actress at the time, if you watch the episode, the actress will look like she's very beautiful at the time. I'm sure she's gotten older since then, but gorgeous. So, now, of course, Martia basically is Khan's side. And, of course, they have this look at all these creatures, and then they pretty much build like a series of houses on the planet, which, okay. And then, of course, then Khan basically makes a speech on top of the Botany Bay with his shirt off. Martia's there. And then after touching his face, which he likes that very much, they make out. And then City Alpha 6 blows up. Yeah, that's actually something they did mention in the movie. They did blow up. And it messed up the planet. Like, basically, throughout this, basically... yeah, the planet blows up. By the way, there is no explanation of why this planet blows up. There was a joke that it blew up because it couldn't stand Khan's awesome strength. But that was a joke on part of Linkara. I highly doubt that was the reason this one planet blew up. Oh, and here's the thing. When Chekhov and Terrell arrive at what they thought was City Alpha 6 was actually the Alpha 5. And you're probably thinking, how the heck... Well, you're probably thinking, where did they get this telescope from? Well, Kirk left them some technology. So at least basically they got some modern technology out of it, which that was quite nice. And then, of course, basically Mark on the side proceeds to go to his room and presumably had sex. Again, I'm sure they probably had sex multiple times while on this planet. And then they jump ahead 6 months later, where this guy named Thomas basically is like questioning. Of course, then the plane goes crazy with these weird explosions, and they're not saying explosive, just basically the plane's changing. And Thomas is not liking Khan's leadership, so he questions it openly. And there are people with him. And this indirectly starts a civil war. This did happen in novel 2, where basically there were people who didn't like what Khan was doing. And he kind of declared the plane his empire. So, over time, now in the book, the way I read it, is that apparently the plane was already a desert by the time basically they got there. Oh, no, that was not the case. They did mention in the movie that the planet was very lush with life, and over time, a lot of life turned to dust, and of course it hid inside the ship, obviously, be affected this mysterious illness. Okay, I didn't go that far.
Well, you need to.
Anyways, so he's always worried about that particular trash can. Like anytime we have a guest, he's always, oh, so there's stuff in it, gotta take it out. Okay. Anyways, so the effect of his mysterious illness. What this illness is not very clear. Marty, of course, is now basically started wearing a scarf. And you're probably thinking, is this a Ranger uniform? Not really, no. The planet's getting cold. Yes, the planet's getting cold. And of course, Marty talks to Thomas like, "Oh, this is you speaking rebellion." Like, She is not a part of this at all. And then here is the infamous shot I was talking about here. The artist have a good idea to show off her rear end up close. And then Khan basically praises something. And they go Kirkman comment. Of course, we have her. The artist apparently loves Marta in this outfit, so let's show up close, above her front and back. And then he switches outfits. Instead of the red jumpsuit he's wearing, and he takes it off. And then he starts wearing this outfit, which outfit he wear in the movie. Yes, it was at this point, by issue 3, he starts wearing the outfit. Why he started wearing this outfit, not sure. And then they proceed to open one of the cargo containers. And when they cut it open, of course, Khan kicks it open. Why not? They have super strength. Why not use it? And they basically have to open the place. And it kind of becomes their unofficial home for some of them. And then we start seeing the visors pop up. The visors and the headgear, which they wear in the movie too. Yeah. And then we see the bloodworms, which Khan put into Chekhov and Terrell in the movie. Now, in the movie itself, Khan remembers Chekhov. And a lot of people point out this plot hole, including Chekhov's actor himself. He actually purposely didn't say anything about it. He knew that was actually a screw up on their part, but he chose not to say anything about it at all. But because basically he wanted Ricardo Montalban to pick up in that spacesuit. So, and I suspect that now in the movie itself, there's not really an explanation of where these creatures came from. Here, it's implied that City Alpha 6 disturbed the planet so much that the creatures were apparently below the surface, and they were brought to the surface thanks to plant blowing up. And of course, basically, they kind of accuse somebody, and then Martia, who looks like she's giving out some pelts to some people, and then Thomas and his rebels kidnap her, and they proceed to put a bloodworm in her ear. And they use it to brainwash her to kill Khan. And then she dies. Oh, by the way, Khan blames Kirk for this, despite the fact that people did it. Yeah, I think I remember they actually sort of a time skip in the book where she just died off screen. Here it's like, yeah, this is the explanation. She got the bloodworm, she died. And then, of course, basically it's like, and then, of course, he goes after the people who actually killed his wife, actually. And then Khan puts on the glove he wears in the movie. This feels completely random. He just put the glove on for a reason. Like, did he burn his hand? Not sure. It's not very clear of exactly why he started wearing the glove. It just felt completely random. It's like, yeah, let's have him wear a glove. And of course, he starts his civil war with the rebel superhumans. And he does go after Thomas, where he does kill him. Yes, he does kill him, because he's smarter and stronger. And then Khan proceeds to take the Starfleet emblem that was outside the ship, cut it off, and make it a necklace. At least explain where he got this from. And then he starts morphing into, over time, sitting in this chair on the side. He morphs into where you see him in Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. And then the book ends where we first see him in Star Trek II Wrath of Khan. Overall, this book is fantastic. The Tipton's did an amazing job with this book. And I give this book a 10 out of 10. Yep. Next up we have is Star Trek Countdown Darkness. Yeah, this is the book that's a prologue for Star Trek II Darkness, the Star Trek Into Darkness movie. So, Beyond didn't have one. Nope, Beyond didn't have one. The first movie did. Countdown did. This did. But did Beyond? Nope, Beyond did not. I think that the main ongoing ended and it led into the movie. So, this is by Roberto Orsi and Mike Johnson. And it's only 4 issues. So, in this universe, this is, I'm assuming after the first 20-ish issues of the main ongoing, this is basically just prior to the events of the movie. Because, if I remember correctly, I believe that issue 21, I think it was 24, takes place after the movie because Carol Marcus is in the book. So, first they recap the movie, and of course the ship is damaged, and of course Spock wakes up in his quarters, and Uhura basically is, and then Kirk is in his quarters, just chatting away, and they go to this planet. They shut a craft down, which of course is shot, and then he reveals the person behind it, and these weird-looking aliens, and they're led by Robert April. Yep, Robert April. Which Clark points out, though, you're dead. Who are you really? He's like, no, I am really Robert April. Yeah, Robert April, who in the main timeline was the original captain of the Enterprise. And I'm guessing some people may point this out, though, in the movie. People assume that Pike was the first captain of the Enterprise because in the main timeline it was Robert April, Pike, and then Kirk. This book kind of fixes that, confirming, yep, he was the first captain of the Enterprise. Yep. Also, the artists make him look like the elder from the Elders of Mercy for some reason. Not sure why. And they kind of work with him. And then they run to somebody else who is referenced once in the movie. We'll get to that. So, and then we meet up with this woman. This is Mudd. Yes. You think, wait, is that Harry Mudd as a woman? Well, they never actually confirm her first name. And for some weird reason, they made this Mudd a Bajoran. How? Who knows? Yeah. So, and throughout this book, basically, and of course, that Sue's taken captive by these weird aliens. It's like this book is a loose adaptation of, I think it was an episode of the original, if I remember correctly, I think it was an episode of the original series, where there was a captain who went rogue and just basically formed these alliances with aliens, or actual humans. So, and of course also that Mudd is smirking at Uhura. Meets up with Captain April. Yeah, this is Mudd. Yeah, this is our full look for her. Yep, Harry Mudd of this universe is a woman. Brings on her spaceship, obviously, and then of course they find out that Robert April was actually just a criminal. Yep, and because like he broke protocol, so he taken the custody. So, oh yeah, and then also McCoy was briefly captain. Something he did do in the novels, never did on the screen, mind you. And of course, tried to take back the ship, which of course is heavily into comms. Eventually, do take back the ship from Mudd and Robert April after some go into the Jeffrey tubes. And there's stuff with the Klingons, and Kirk has to flee from the Klingons. And he warps away. Oh yeah, and then of course Robert Davis handed over to Starfleet Intelligence at nearby base. Mudd is handed over too, but Kirk's like, I'm keeping her ship. And then Uhura go, and of course Spock goes with her, and of course basically is like, yeah, your punishment is to go see your girlfriend. Make out, and then Kirk is briefed by Pike. And of course Kirk does question Pike about, well, Starfleet keeping secrets. Pike's like, just be prepared to keep mouth shut about that stuff. Yeah. He doesn't like it very much at all. And then the book ends where we see John Harrison arriving at the Starfleet Archive, aka Khan. Yeah. Really good book here. Yuck. So, that I believe is the last of the Kelvin Timeline comics on the app. Yep. There are other Star Trek books definitely, but I give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. I'm glad they included Robert April because, like I mentioned before, he was somebody I think a lot of people question why he was not included in the movie. And this book was like, yeah, he's here. He's part of the timeline. Having Mudd be included here was interesting, but having Mudd be a woman, that's different. And for some reason, close up, she looks like a Bajoran. Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. And she's very seductive. It's almost like the way the artist drew her. It's almost like she wanted to do something with Uhura. Possibly. There's no mention she's interested in she's, because Mudd was a ladies' man in the original timeline. He loved ladies. Though yes, he did have a wife who drove him nuts. But it's like, yeah, he's a man for the ladies. He was calm in his debut appearance, and then later on, he basically is like surrounded by all these beautiful android women. It's like he wants them so badly. And yeah. But here it's like, yeah, let's throw in Mudd. Obviously, this is a nod to Harry Mudd, except it's a woman. Why is it a woman? Don't know. I have met Mike Johnson, so I have no idea why he made Harry Mudd a woman. I think it's actually the first time I can think of they've actually done a sex change in Star Trek, where in the original books, in the original stuff, it was a guy, and this one it's a woman. But here's the thing with Mudd: they never refer to her as Harry. Nope, they just refer to her simply as Mudd. Like, it is assumed by anybody who reads this that she is in fact a female version of Harry Mudd, but no confirmation about that. None whatsoever. I gotta admit, the artist made her very stunning. Yes, like, is implied that she might be bisexual. Given how the artwork draws her looks that she does at Uhura, I would not be surprised if she's bisexual. I would not be surprised about that. The Klingons here were fine. Of course, they did play a role in Into Darkness, and the new look was fine. This was a preview for that, for the to see the movie. But yeah, that's pretty much a particular video. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, to notifications. Next up, back to Kamen Rider 01. Okay, next video. Bye.